D-Day. All night since 0 hour, the drone of heavily laden planes has been ceaselessly overhead. British town and country, the people have now known for hours that this is the day for which they have been working and waiting. The new rocket bombing planes and the full might of our heavy Allied bombing force have kept up the merciless pounding of the enemy's coastal fortifications. Inland at enemy communications, canal transport, locomotives, vital installations, and the enemy's crumbling air power. Headquarters, General Eisenhower and his staff at the nerve center of the Allied operations. Here he stands with Admiral Ramsey, responsible for the convoy's safe arrival. All goes according to schedule. For hours, men have been tuning up for the final assault. Our transports and gliders bear freshly painted zebra markings. Last-minute briefing. Each man receives emergency rations for 2 days. Behind enemy lines, he will be cut off from supplies until linked up with the beach forces. Transportation goes aboard. This is a new formidable type of grenade, later to be used with devastating effect. Machine guns. Like commandos, they use personal camouflage. Like commandos, they prepare for close, deadly fighting. Finally, the last moment. They go aboard. Here they start on their way to join their comrades who are already fighting on the soil of France. Airborne troops of the United States 9th Air Force. from those who can only stand and sweat it out. Overhead, they look down on part of the 4,000 ships and thousands of landing craft that are still carrying men to the beaches. Behind the coast, the parachutists drop, jump to reinforce those who are already established there. Making possible rapid penetration, parachutists and airborne troops are only part of the general chain of strategy, but one of its strongest links. The great armada still goes on. And barrage balloons protected from attacks of the Luftwaffe. Ack-ack gunners stand ready. The communications room is at constant alert. Already the French coast. The fleet's heavy guns open up, silencing enemy coastal batteries, supporting the men who must take these beaches. A smoke screen to help protect the smaller landing craft. Now they go in. Men advance cautiously. Not every enemy emplacement can be knocked out by bombing and shelling. Some must be taken by toughened, specially trained men. We bring in our heavy equipment. One of the thousands of Nazis for whom the West Wall is no longer impregnable. New waves of fighting men prepare for the run to the beaches. The last few dangerous yards must be waded through underwater mines and enemy barrage. More men go in and more equipment. The Beachmaster plants his marker as a guide for those who will follow the Commander-in-Chief of the ground troops, who said, "I personally have absolute and complete confidence in the outcome." D-Day +1. A conference is held off the French coast by Supreme Commander Eisenhower. The initial landings have been accomplished, and now the leaders of the campaign face with optimism the next two steps in their tightly planned strategy. One, enough equipment must be thrown ashore to repulse even the gravest of pending German counterattack. Two, a port must soon be taken, capable of handling with speed the enormous quantities of war material needed for any major operation. Several days later, General de Gaulle visits Normandy. Besides military operations, the Allied armies have been concerned for many months with plans to assist the people of France in their programs for rehabilitation and reconstruction. Today, at last, they see these plans being put into action. Today, side by side, push forward the waves not only of destruction, but of construction. The battle of supply is already well underway. Fulfilling their vital task, the transports churn back and forth across the channel in a broad, endless chain. The beaches take on a well-ordered look. The battle of the build-up is being won. The first step, supply, falls into routine. As part of the second step in Allied strategy, capturing a port, the British and Canadians are given the job of pushing southeast in what would appear to the enemy as a direct drive towards Paris. The Nazis are fooled. Rommel throws in his 21st Panzers to meet it. Instead, the British push inland is used as a feint to draw German armor, while the main attack for a large port comes from the Americans in the west. It is now revealed that these flail tanks are being used on the Normandy front. They are land minesweepers with whirling chains that explode the mines ahead of the advancing tanks. The British Army fighting its way east are the well-remembered desert rats of North African fame, once more against their old enemy, but this time on new terrain. In the British sector, the fighting was severe. This is the ghost town of La Gèvre, now only a symbol of the cost at which full liberation is achieved. As part of the drive east, an aerial attack is made on the port of Le Havre on the British left flank. Heavy Lancasters carry out the operation and smother port installations with a tremendous bomb load. General Eisenhower keeps in touch with current operations. Meanwhile, the American troops under General Bradley are assigned to take Cherbourg as the Allies' first port. From the northernmost beachhead, they swing to the right to crash into Montfort. Slowly, they clean it out street by street. Here, as in other towns, soldiers and civilians together battle with the destructive fires left by a retreating enemy. While the fires are blazing in Montfort, the Nazis reorganize their defenses. Once again, our strategists outwit the Germans. The town of Montfort lies on the direct road to Cherbourg, out at the end of the peninsula. The Germans, expecting an immediate thrust at Cherbourg, mass their main strength to repulse it. But before striking north, the Americans send a lighter force west, directly across the peninsula. This brilliant move catches the enemy completely by surprise and seals off every means of escape except northward into the sea. And now the major thrust toward Cherbourg begins. The Allies, with complete air supremacy, open the drive with a methodical bombing of enemy armor, strong points, and communications. The effect is devastating. Throughout the drive north, this aerial offensive is continued, stepping up to the last shattering 80 minutes before the infantry enters the city. Knocked out enemy equipment and bombed out communications, there are thousands of prisoners, including some Marines. They are transported to Britain as soon as possible. This is one time when they disembark as fresh Allied troops stand waiting to cross over and enter the fight. The Germans have tried many weapons in this war. However, this toy-sized tank, planned to carry high explosives, affords its captors more amusement than its inventors. The drive of the ground forces north to Cherbourg begins through ruined towns and villages. Objective in sight, the artillery opens up with its deadly hail of shells, blasting German positions surrounding the city and forcing an opening for the advancing troops. The fort is honeycombed with forts and strong points, which are reduced one by one, first with artillery and then with infantry.
More and more German towns are being wrecked in the Allied drive from the west. Latest success by General Crear's Canadian and British troops has been the capture of Goth. The opening stages of the attack begin through mist and rain as the infantry and tanks move forward. Heavy and concentrated shelling and mortaring come from the tough German paratroops holding well-prepared positions in the town. We fight our way in yard by yard. Yet another batch of prisoners begins the long march back to the cages. Fleeing German civilians, overtaken by our advance, are rounded up and taken to collecting stations behind the lines. Another important German defense point is in our hands, although enemy snipers have still to be mopped up. Up in the front line, Field Marshal Montgomery is here, there, and everywhere, directing operations and giving advice and encouragement. As always, his presence continues to be a tonic and an inspiration to all our fighting men.
Saint-Lô captured and on to Avranches, followed by drives into Brittany, seizing the great ports. The Allies need ports, breaking out of the beachhead front with a huge sweep. And most important of all, from captured Rennes, the drive to Le Mans. And keeping on, the swift offensives on the road to Paris. The Allies have the air supremacy. And they have massed a mighty striking power as filmed by Army Signal Corps and Air Force and newsreel cameramen. You note a novelty, the tank dozer for ripping through the hedgerows of northern France. The American drive that broke through for such sensational gain. Nazis beaten in Normandy and Brittany, an enemy disaster. American wounded, casualties of the drives that broke out of the beachhead front and surged on. And the care of the wounded is the best. German prisoners of war take care of their own injured. Nazi casualties are heavy as enemy forces are hurled back. Those wounded prisoners know that the multiple American offensive has conquered the ancient province of Brittany and is moving toward Paris. Ruins of the city of Coutances, the capture of which was a key event in the mighty breakthrough which has resulted in the battle for Paris. American soldiers, elated with victory, are shouting the slogan, "On to Paris!"
Really, this is easily the most satisfying report I've ever made. Here come the Germans who surrendered to Monty. General Admiral von Friedeberg, Rear Admiral Wagner, General Kinzel, and the rest. After trying unsuccessfully to surrender various armies, then fighting against the Russians, they were now trying at the Field Marshal's headquarters on Lüneburg Heath to see if they couldn't get terms for the armies opposing the 21st Army Group. Naturally, Monty told them it must be unconditional surrender, and incidentally it looks as if the chief's interpreter got a real kick out of interpreting his remarks. In the event of their not agreeing to unconditional surrender, Monty said, "I shall go on with the war, and will be delighted to do so, and all your soldiers may be killed." That made the Huns think, and this is them thinking it. It didn't take them very long, and when after contacting Field Marshal Bush they came back to the tent, well, Monty told them in his own inimitable way exactly and precisely what it was all about.
Now, we've assembled here today to accept the surrender terms which have been made with a delegation from the German Army. I will now read out the terms of that instrument of surrender. The German command agrees to the surrender of all German armed forces in Holland, in northwest Germany, including the Frisian Islands and Heligoland and all other islands, in Schleswig-Holstein and in Denmark, to the Commander-in-Chief, 21st Army Group. This to include all naval ships in these areas. These forces to lay down their arms and to surrender unconditionally. The German command to carry out at once, and without argument or comment, all further orders that will be issued by the Allied powers on any subject. Disobedience of orders or failure to comply with them will be regarded as a breach of these surrender terms and will be dealt with by the Allied powers in accordance with the accepted laws and usages of war. This instrument of surrender is written in English and in German. The English version is the authentic text. The decision of the Allied powers will be final if any doubt or dispute arises as to the meaning or interpretation of the surrender terms. On this day of victory in Europe, I feel I would like to speak to all who have served and fought with me during the last few years. What I have to say is very simple and quite short. I would ask you all to remember those of our comrades who fell in the struggle. They gave their lives that others might have freedom, and no man can do more than that. In the early days of this war, the British Empire stood alone against the combined might of the Axis powers, and during those days we suffered some great disasters. But we stood firm, on the defensive, at striking blows where we could. Later, we were joined by Russia and America, and from then onwards, the end was in no doubt. It has been a privilege and an honor to command this great British Empire team in Western Europe. Few commanders can have had such loyal service as you have given me. I thank each one of you from the bottom of my heart. And so, let us embark on what lies ahead, full of joy and optimism. We have won the German war. Let us now win the peace. Good luck to each one of you, wherever you may be.
The day is one of thanksgiving the world over. In Holland, there is real cause to cheer. The capitulation of Germany has literally saved thousands from death by starvation. Their Canadian liberators are feted, and ceremonies of thanks are held for deliverance. Buckingham Palace, excitement reaches fever heat as the moment arrives when the royal family makes an appearance. For a glimpse of their beloved monarch in his hour of triumph, loyal subjects have stood for hour after hour. Now their wishes are fulfilled. Now they celebrate together the great day of triumph.
Today, we give thanks to God for a great deliverance. In the Far East, we have yet to deal with the Japanese, a determined and cruel foe. To this we shall turn with the utmost resolve and with all our resources. But at this hour, when the dreadful shadow of war has passed far from our hearths and homes in these islands, we may at last make one pause for thanksgiving. First, and let us remember those who will not come back, their constancy and courage in battle, their sacrifice and endurance in the face of a merciless enemy. We have come to the end of our tribulation, and they are not with us at the moment of our rejoicing.
VE Day draws to a close, but the celebrations still go on. Not in one day alone can all the pent-up joy be released. The world has been saved from the clutches of one oppressor. Now we turn to smash the other, thus joining peace to victory, a peace which will last 1,000 years.